So Sheffield Wednesday have sacked Tony Pulis after just 45 days in charge. Let's talk about it. So guys, welcome back to another video on the channel. A bit of a quick one today, but I wanted to get your guys' reaction because this was something that did catch me off guard last night, and like I say, I want to get your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. With Sheffield Wednesday over recent years, there's never quite been a dull moment there, but this one's definitely worth a bit of a discussion and actually looking into the bottom of the Championship now and how the rest of the season's going to shape up. Sheffield Wednesday over recent years, and especially during the Chancery era, have been a bit of an erratic club, haven't they? They obviously had the two unsuccessful playoff campaigns under Carlos Carvajal. They had the loss at Wembley against Hull and then the loss in the semi-final against Huddersfield. And during all this time as well, Sheffield Wednesday was spending a lot of money. Ultimately, that's caught up with them and they're paying for that at the moment. But in terms of some of the transfer fees or on just flops that they were signing, Sheffield Wednesday, probably a lot more so than a lot of other Championship clubs, have just bought really badly in transfer windows. No sort of forward thinking in terms of resale value for the players that they've invested in. And right now, Sheffield Wednesday have one of the oldest squads in the Championship, which is seemingly going nowhere. Following on from that came the Josh Lukai era, which was just a bit strange to say the least. A lot of weird goings on. Steve Bruce came in after Lukai, initially did quite well, but he then took the Newcastle job. Steve Bruce was in charge for just 18 games. Gary Monk then came in and initially did alright for them, but his time there quickly went quite stale, and obviously Tony Pulis then came in to try and save them from this current situation, but ultimately has only been given 10 games to do so. So this was the statement that Sheffield Wednesday put out last night, and they put it out at 11 o'clock, by the way, at night, which is just a weird time to be putting out club announcements, but this is what they had to say. Sheffield Wednesday have terminated the contract of manager Tony Pulis with immediate effect. The chairman says the performances and results have not been of the level expected since Tony Pulis was appointed. There are also other issues which have been bearing on this decision. On the pitch, 7 points from a possible 30 is not acceptable. It is vital we maintain our Championship status, and I feel we must make a change now with over half a season remaining to give us the best possible chance of doing so. Now ultimately, I think that everyone knew that Sheffield Wednesday were walking into a bit of a disaster this season. I, like a lot of other people, had them to be relegated at the start of the season. Obviously that was the knowledge of them having minus 12 point deduction. That's since been reduced to minus 6. So if we do take a bit of a look into the results since Tony Pulis came in, it doesn't particularly make for great reading. His first game was away at Preston. They had a man sent off quite early into that game. Preston went on to win it by 1-0. Just one win from a possible 10 doesn't make for great reading in the situation that they're in especially. But I think that what Tony Pulis was kind of angling for, and to a certain degree got a bit of success with this, was trying to make them a bit harder to beat. And then ultimately Sheffield Wednesday's whole season was going to depend on what they were going to do throughout the January transfer window. You know, it's a club who's got a lot of problems at the moment, being able to, you know, not paying players on time, the point deduction which has been looming over them for the whole season, 4 draws, 1 win and 5 losses in 10 games for Pulis. Probably what's most worrying from a Sheffield Wednesday perspective though is in those 10 games that he was in charge for, they had just 20 shots on target, so averaging just 2 shots on target per game. I mean, it's quite funny how over recent years Sheffield Wednesday have always been that one Championship club with sort of like an abundance of Championship strikers. Like over the years they always had like too many strikers, and now they've completely gone the other way. You know, if we think about recent years, they had the likes of Newhugh, they had Winnall, Forestieri, Lucas Jow, Stephen Fletcher, Dunn Rose was still knocking about as well, and there are loads of others throughout the years. But now, if we look at the current options in the squad, right here are the Sheffield Wednesday top scorers so far this season, and this is what really makes for grim reading for them. Their top scorer at this point of the season is Josh Windass with 3 goals, and after Windass they've only had 5 other players who have actually chipped in with scoring a goal this season. They're currently the second lowest scoring side in the league at this point in time. If we look at some of the other metrics for them so far this season, they are averaging the fewest amounts of shots per game, just 8.5 per 90. And it was something that we highlighted at the start of the season, that lack of firepower was always going to come back to bite them, because if we look at their most used 11 so far this season, I still think there are areas of this squad which are to like. Obviously they need to keep people fit, and obviously injuries haven't helped them throughout the season so far. That midfield 3 though, for example, when they're all on it, Massimo Luongo, Izzy Brown and Barry Bannon, that's not bad for Championship standards. I think there's a nice bit of balance to that midfield as well. They got a couple of decent defenders. Dominic Iorfa I think's been good. Obviously Westwood getting himself back into the team had a few decent performances. And then the likes of Kadeem Harris and Adam Reach are capable of so much more. Ultimately I think the decision to get rid of Tony Pulis wasn't just because of footballing reasons. I think that Pulis has probably said a few home truths about what's actually needed to keep this squad up and what needs to be done in January, and Shinseri's probably not like that. Reading between the lines, even from a couple of his press conferences over the last few weeks, you can see that something was always going to give with Pulis. He wasn't going to be someone who was going to be a sort of yes man to go along with everything. And so Wednesday fans, I'm really interested to get your take on all of this in the comments down below. Obviously they are playing tonight against Middlesbrough. It would be typical if Wednesday were to go on and win this game or something, but we'll see. If we do take a bit of a look into the Championship League table at the moment, Sheffield Wednesday currently find themselves at 23rd in the league. It's quite weird at the bottom of the Championship. It's been very unpredictable so far, but what's just about keeping them in touching distance of survival is Rotherham, but they do have 2 games in hand on Wednesday at the moment. So obviously if, let's say, Rotherham get like 4 points from those 2 games in hand, Wednesday are then once again back to square one. Now if we were to quickly disregard the current points deduction that Sheffield Wednesday have, so the 6 points, that would see Sheffield Wednesday sitting 20th in the table. So that's the sort of form they're averaging throughout the season so far. With the point deduction though, that's not going to be good enough to keep them in the league, obviously. And what was always going to be the case for Wednesday this season, why we said it was going to be so difficult for them, was because they were going to need to maintain the form throughout the season of at least a lower sort of mid-table side. But so far this season they've been well below even that. Looking at some of their fixtures, January seems like an absolutely monumental month for Wednesday. So they got Middlesbrough tonight, which I do see being quite a tough game. After that they've then got games against Derby, Coventry and Wickham. Those 3 games right there, depending on who the manager's going to be by that point, I think sets the tone for Wednesday for the rest of the season. And obviously they made the decision that Tony Pulis isn't the right man to see them through all of this. If we then take a bit of a look at who are the current favourites for the Sheffield Wednesday job, and Wednesday fans, I want to get your perspective in the comments down below in terms of who you'd actually like to see come in. Currently Gus Poyet is the favourite. After that, Jose Marias, which, I mean, that really doesn't fill you with a lot of confidence. I mean, it goes down the sort of chaotic route that Wednesday have been going for lately, but I mean, his track record at Barnsley, we've seen him in the Championship before, haven't we? I wouldn't be too keen on that one. Danny Cowley, I don't think in the situation they're in, the worst shout in the world. He came into Huddersfield, who were in a very similar situation last season. Ultimately, Huddersfield didn't see their long-term future with him at the time. I wasn't sure that was the right decision, but, you know, after the success that Carlos Colbrand's had, probably is the right decision. Paul Cook, I also think would be a fairly sensible choice as well at this point in their season. I was really surprised to learn that he wasn't even interviewed for the job last time, which I find really strange. Nigel Pearson's name pops up there, Ryan Lowe, Slaven Bilic, Jonathan Woodgate. Some of these managers I just can't see taking the job at all. And that's the other question. Would a manager want to take the Sheffield Wednesday job at the moment? It's an interesting question because on the surface of things, Sheffield Wednesday look like an absolute mess at the moment, and it looks like a bit of a toxic club to be walking into. A lot of negative factors for Wednesday. However, the one thing that they do have going for them, and it is still quite a big thing in football, Sheffield Wednesday in the Championship are a massive club. There's no denying that. You know, the fan base, the infrastructure and everything that goes along with it. A manager that would see himself as maybe being the one to turn them around. You know, it was very similar when Sunderland got relegated to the Championship. If you are that manager to completely turn the tide at a club like Sheffield Wednesday, then your stock rises 1,000,000%. And if it does go wrong, I suppose you can just say, oh well, it was a toxic club I was walking into anyway. So in that aspect, you're sort of bulletproof. But can I see any of those managers realistically being at Sheffield Wednesday long term, like past this season? I can't really. You know, how long into the jobs do you get before you realise that you're not going to completely get things going your own way and there's a falling out later down the line? It seems to happen a lot at Wednesday. But Wednesday fans, do get your thoughts in the comments down below in terms of all of this, and general fans of the Championship as well. I'm interested to see what fans of other clubs actually make of this. Who at the moment is in your bottom 3 come the end of the season? Do Sheffield Wednesday feature in that, or do you think they're somehow going to escape this? I think it's all probably going to depend on what they do throughout January and who they bring in as their next manager. But that, guys, will now wrap it up for today's video. So if you did enjoy this one and you'd like to see me do some other sort of videos looking into individual clubs as well, I found it quite interesting, do show the support on this video and leave it a like, and please do subscribe and stick around for some regular Championship content. But apart from that, guys, thanks for sticking around, and I'll see you all in the next one.